Hello everybody, Toastbomb here, bringing you a new Halo 4 map. This one is called Abandon and it looks awesome, but unfortunately I have to cut away from the screen. I know it hurts, but we gotta do it. Now, I know when you check out a new map, it's kinda hard to get a sense of the layout of the map. You're not controlling where you're looking and the camera keeps cutting and all this stuff, and it's really difficult to figure out the layout of it. So we're going to walk you through the basics of what this map is. So starting out, it's pretty much just a box, a rectangular shape that has two bases in it. Now each of these bases is multiple levels. One of them at the top is only 2 levels, and then the main central one is 3 levels. Each one of these bases has a lift that goes from the bottom level to the top level. Then there are 2 hallways, essentially, that allow for players that spawn in the outside, open, vulnerable area to have some easy flanking routes for those central bases. Then there is a big ramp smack dab in the middle, allowing players who spawn in that vulnerable outside location to have easy access to the 3rd level of that middle central building. Alright, so now that you guys have a little bit of a sense of how this map is shaped, let's get back into the gameplay. So the first thing we're going to be just talking about is the aesthetics and the look of the map. Now, I'm really liking this a lot better than the Valhalla remake. I was kind of disappointed in that, thought it didn't have a lot of color variety. This one, though, has quite a bit of color variety and is really reminding me of the Halo 2 map, Backwash, because there's a lot of trees, really twisted, dark, swampy looking areas. Also, at one point, they go through one of the side hallways, and you see these trees that the vines on them are, spaced apart and have spacing in between them, between the trunk, and there's, these purple glowy orb things that look so cool. I don't know if they're actually something in fiction or not, but they look awesome, and that's all I care about. Also, it's going to be very easy because of this to tell which side you are when you spawn. Some maps aren't designed the greatest. You get this a lot in the Halo Reach maps, and it's not really the map designer's fault. It's just because there's no variety of colors in the Halo Reach Forge palette. Everything is gray. So when you spawn and you don't know a map like the back of your hand, you are like, I'm in the gray area. I don't know where that is. But with things like this, where there's crazy glowy orb things in the trees, you're going to instantly know when you spawn where you are. And that's especially useful for people who are new to the map and are trying to figure out where everything is. It helps them a lot, and it just makes things look and feel a lot better. So now that you have a little bit of a sense of how the map is shaped and how it looks, let's talk strategy. I'm going to 4v4 Team Slayer strategy first. So, the first thing I thought when I was watching this gameplay is that middle building looks pretty awesome. It's got multiple stories that you could put people on, it's got quite a bit of cover, and it has some really good vantage points for spawn trapping onto those people spawning in that outside, open, vulnerable area. So my first thoughts were, put 2 people on that top middle 3-story building. So that way they can help out either side. They can go to the right, team shot people going down that side, go to the left, team shot people going down that side, or go to the center and kill people trying to go up that middle ramp, or people just spawning out in the open. And then the other 2 players would be on the 2nd level of that center building. And on the 2nd level, there's actually these 2 bridges that connect to those 2 side hallways. So one player would be on one bridge and one player would be on the other. They also here get the advantage of having a little bit of cover because there's actually a covered railway on that bridge that's about mid-body level. So they get a little bit of an advantage there, especially on players that are down low near the 1st level. Now I have a feeling that this strategy will work pretty good depending on how the spawns actually function in Halo 4 on this map. Because that center building is a little bit past halfway, so there's about a 1/3 of the map behind it. Now I don't know if you have control of that center building. Will the players not spawn in that 1/3 and only in the 2/3 where there's this huge open vulnerable area that would be pretty easy to spawn trap in, or will they occasionally spawn back there? If they do, that can be a huge concern. Also, there is quite a bit of cover in that open area. So players will have a fairly easy time getting to those flankable hallways. And if they all group up as a 4 and push towards the center from one of the flanks, it could be really easy to just take out a team and wipe them completely. So it does seem like it has some pretty vulnerable spots. And that's not even counting jetpacks, which are now in the game, where you could jetpack from like level 1, where you sneak down into level 1, and then jetpack up one of the sides of the buildings and flank the guys from behind on level 3. You could do quite a few things that would really disrupt this. Which is why I'm thinking maybe it would actually be better to take that very back base as a setup. You'd maybe have one guy in that center base, and then two guys more near the corners in those hallways, and then another guy just kind of roaming around back and forth, going wherever he needs to. So doing a strategy this way would make it so that, you don't really get flanked very easy, but it would also cause the game to slow down a lot because the enemy team is going to be spawning quite a ways away from you, so it's going to slow down the game massively. So this setup would probably cater more towards some team that plays generally more passively. If you ever tried setting up on the pit in Halo 3 and only staying your side of the map, that's kind of the thing I'm thinking. It slows down the game tremendously, but if that's how you play and you wait for the other team to make mistakes and then you capitalize on that, this could give you some really big benefits setting up this way. But on the other hand, if you're a more aggressive style team that just wants to kill people as fast as they can, it doesn't matter where they spawn because you know the spawn so well that you're just going to spawn trap them again anyways. I think that center place is going to be much, much better for you. Also, that center setup would work tremendously for ball, because you'd have the ball guy on that back third of the map, that last base. He'd be in there, guarded, protected, but he'd be on the top level, not the bottom level, because you want to keep the ball guy in an area that actually has the ability to support your other players. So he'd be on that top second level of the last building. And then, similar to the Team Slayer setup, you'd have a guy in the center, 3-story building at the top, and then 2 on the sides. So you would be protected from the back. People would not be very likely to spawn in that back third of the map, and would pretty much only be spawning in the open, vulnerable area. But you'd still be vulnerable to those flanks, which hopefully the ball guy is good enough that he could go and support your teammates if you're calling out, and you could kind of negate some of that. Another setup for ball would be taking that more passive setup, where you actually have the ball guy go into one of the corners. If you notice at one part of the video, one of the corners splits off. One of them goes straight to the base, and the other one kind of rounds around and elevates up and then has a drop off of the other side. So you could have the ball guy tucked away into that corner, not really able to support, but he would be not vulnerable at all to any gunfire. And then you have the other 2 guys in the hallway leading up to the corner where the ball guy is. So this would be the more passive strategy that would, again, slow down the game quite a bit, but you'd be less vulnerable, and if you're that team that capitalizes off of those players that make the mistakes, then that is the setup for you. Now, a lot of the stuff, well, basically all the stuff that I talked about in this video is pretty much not concrete. It's actually about the complete opposite of concrete. They're pretty much foam blocks is what I'm talking about. Super soft, not very good for sidewalks. We don't know exactly how the spawns work, and some other variables, armor abilities, I didn't think a ton about that or go into a ton of detail on how those would affect the map. So there's a ton of things that will actually change how the map works, but just based off my experience from previous Halo games and how the maps tend to flow and the spawn system works, that's kind of what I'm basing my knowledge off of. I didn't play a lot of default Halo Reach with the armor abilities, so I don't have a really good sense of how the jetpack, when being selected in a loadout and not really a power weapon like it was in MLG, can affect the gameplay. So, again, just going off of my previous knowledge. But that'll do it for this video. If you like the video, you can leave a like or a comment, or you could subscribe, because I post new Halo videos every day. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye.